I'd like to ask our Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Jim Richardson, to introduce today's commencement speaker.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here today to celebrate Eagle Hill's graduating class of 2012. Please know that the Board of Trustees, the administration, the faculty and staff, and your families are immensely proud of all you've accomplished, and so happy that you've reached this fantastic milestone. Of course, our happiness is somewhat tinged by the reality that you will no longer be with us on a daily basis, but we take comfort knowing that you will always be part of the Eagle Hill community, just as you and your families will always be part of the Eagle Hill family. My official duty here today is to introduce your commencement speaker. So I thought you might be interested to know how that came to be, and also to tell you a little bit about the kind of man he is. I met Pete Shumlin at a political conference a couple of years ago. At the time, he was the president pro tem of the Vermont Senate. In that capacity, he was a leader in the fight for marriage equality in Vermont. The bill passed both branches of the Vermont legislature, but the then governor vetoed it. But Pete Shumlin is a fighter, and he mustered enough votes to override the veto. For this, he is a true hero of my community. I also learned Pete was dyslexic. He was the founder of Landmark College in Putnam, Vermont. Landmark is a liberal arts college designed for people with learning differences. He knows how to overcome long odds. He is tenacious and compassionate. He is a passionate environmentalist. In fact, he has been referred to as the greenest American governor. So getting back to why he is here. At the time we met, Pete was running for governor of Vermont, and he asked if we would host a fundraiser for him at our apartment in Boston. As I thought it over, he sweetened the pot a bit. He said he would bring a couple of writer friends of his to the event to lend their support to his candidacy. Turned out that one was some guy named Stephen King, and the other was a man named John Irving. I thought, wow, this guy running for governor has some cool friends. As I trust you all sense, nothing really comes too easy. He won the crowded Democratic primary by 197 votes, and then the general election by a little more than 4,000. The night of our fundraiser, he gave a short speech about why he was running for governor. We were all blown away by what an articulate and gifted communicator he is. He said to me as a way of thanks that if I ever wanted anything, to let him know. I thought about 3 seconds, and I told him I already know. What I want, I said, is for him to get elected governor and for me to be able to introduce him as the commencement speaker of Eagle Hill's graduation class of 2012. He said it's a done deal, and here he is today. Imagine a politician keeping his promises. So it is with great pride I introduce my friend, the 81st Governor of the state of Vermont, Governor Peter Shumlin.
Chair, I actually wasn't keeping a promise. I just know how to keep good friends. They don't come any better than Jim Richardson and Esmond Harper. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I am so honored to be here at Eagle Hill and to be here with the class of 2012, 14 beautiful and brilliant students going forth to make a difference for all of us. So I want to thank Dr. McDonald. I want to thank the chair of the board, Jim Richardson. I want to thank all the board members who worked so hard for Eagle Hill. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary faculty and staff who made this moment possible. Let's give them a hand. And I want to congratulate and acknowledge the pride that I know is being felt right now of the moms and the dads and the grandmas and the grandpas and the uncles and the aunts and the cousins and the brothers and the sisters and the significant others. Thank you so much. I've been in your shoes, And therefore, it's a special privilege for me to be able to share a few of my thoughts with the class of 2012. Now, as a dyslexic kid, I know better than to give advice, because I know we don't take advice. We have to go out and figure it out for ourselves, right? I mean, that kind of goes with the territory. But I wanted to just be able to share with this class some of my experience and why I know that the struggles that we have had together, learning how to read, doing math, taking exams, getting through classes, showing up at class, doing all the great things that we did to distract ourselves from our academic pursuits, that the fact of the matter is, and you may not feel this today, but you will feel it in your lifetime, that your learning style, your learning difference is a gift. And I stand before you as a governor and as the father of a daughter who learns just like me to tell you that the greatest gift that you have been given, the reason that you have a single ability to be a leader, to make change, and to make good decisions, is rooted in your learning style. Now, I know it doesn't always felt that way, and I'll never forget being in second grade before there was any special education teachers, before there was any special attention given to kids like me and you. When you either sank or swam, this is how we did it in Vermont in the 1960s when I was in second grade. I'll never forget the day of being called into the principal's office in my school. And I got called in, and there sitting there was my mom and dad and a principal. And I thought to myself, you know, I can't imagine what I did today to be called into the principal's office. Because I hadn't that particular day. And the principal sat there with my mom and dad and spoke to them as if I wasn't sitting in the room. Now, we wouldn't do this anymore. They just went and they said, listen. They said, George and Kitty Shumlin, we don't know what's wrong with this kid. We can't teach him how to read. We know that he's not going to have a professional career. We know he's not going to go to college, but we're going to do the best that we can. And then they sent me back to sit in the back of the class where they took me from. That was one of the great days of my life. And I know that you've had many days like that. So I went back to class, and a couple weeks later, I had a single teacher, and her name was Claire Oglesby. And she said, for whatever reason, that she saw something in me that other teachers didn't see. And she literally would load me into her Willie's Jeep and drive me to her log cabin on Windmill Hill Road in Westminster, West Vermont. Now, I'm old, but not everybody was living in log cabins then, but she was. And she lived in a log cabin with her husband, Mac, who was also a teacher. And in the warm weather, we'd sit on her lawn, and in the cold weather, we'd sit around a wood stove. And she doggedly taught me how to read. It took her a year. So I stand before you as governor today because a single teacher saw something in me that others didn't see. And I bet that each of you has a mom or a dad or some role model that did the same at some point for you. Now, I got to tell you, I'm ever grateful to Claire Oglesby for taking the time to do that. She is my hero. You know, I am the biggest class of new governors elected in the history of America. And it was a class of a lot of Tea Party governors. And I know that when you listen to some of them, you might think that they can't read. But all I can tell you is this, it's real tough to be a governor if you can't read. So I would not be here before you today being able to give this comments to you without that person. Now, what's that got to do with your sitting here today? I would say this. There are two things about my experience and your experience that have a lot in common. The first is, I bet there isn't a one of you that hasn't figured out how to think ahead so that you don't get caught in crisis. That's what we do. That's how we survive. I was never a great student. I did learn how to read. I'll never forget when I was your age, senior year in high school. And my principal of the school called me in and he said, my senior year, that we were a little more laid back about going to college in those years. And he said, Peter, are you planning to go to college? I said, yeah, I'm going to college. He said, well, there isn't a college in the country that would take you. I said, well, that's not very nice. He said, do you really want to go? I said, yeah. He said, I've got a brother-in-law who teaches at Boston University's College of Basic Studies. It's a 2-year program. Now, you couldn't get in there on your own, but I think he could get you in. And they basically start with the basics. You do 2 years there, and if you do okay, you might be able to go to a 4-year college. So he did get me in, and I went to the College of Basic Studies, and I worked really hard. And I did so well there that I could shed the SAT scores. That I think I got a little bit better on score than what you get when you write your name. I could shed the bad grades in high school because they looked at my 2 years in college. So I was lucky enough to go on to Wesleyan University and graduate with honors. You all are going to have similar journeys. But here's the message. I am convinced that because we learn differently, because we have to think ahead, because it doesn't come easily, because we have to work twice as hard as everybody else in the room to get to the same place, we are uniquely qualified to lead. What a leader has to do is be ahead of the troops, is to have a vision, have compassion, and outthink them. And you've had to do that every single day of your academic career. There is a reason why people who learn differently have a more than average chance of being a leader in whatever they choose to do. It's because if it comes easily, if you can sit on the couch and get straight A's, if you don't have to struggle, if you don't have to fight, you don't have the fight in you. So this class of 2012, the 40 of you are uniquely qualified to lead in whatever you wish to do. And we're proud of you. The second message is this. I am convinced that leadership without compassion is an empty promise. And I don't believe that you inherit compassion. I believe you learn it. And there is no more important ingredient in life than compassion. Now, the fact of the matter is, we learn compassion differently than many other people. We learn compassion because I bet there isn't a one of you who hasn't been bullied, teased, or embarrassed by your learning style. I know I was many, many times. I can tell you from my heart that I always considered a public spelling bee in class bullying. It is. And I can't tell you that I still have nightmares of waking up, thanking God I woke up, because I'm in the class sinking my team one more time in a spelling bee. Now you got to remember, we didn't have spell check back then. I'm that old. My point is this. The struggles that we've had, the work that we've had to do, the pain that we have felt, getting to where you've gotten today, has given you extraordinary compassion to feel other people's pain, because there have been times where you felt pain yourself that you didn't deserve, that you didn't warrant, that wasn't fair. I ask you to do this with this extraordinary degree from Eagle Hill. First of all, continue your academic pursuit, because I can tell you there is nothing more important than getting a good education so that you can be a leader. Second, don't forget the compassion and carry it with you every single day. I do. Jim just referred to the fact that I was a leader on marriage equality in Vermont and America. That wasn't rooted in the fact that I suddenly woke up one day feeling like it wasn't fair that some people were teased, chastised, bullied, and discriminated against because of who they loved. That was rooted in the fact that as a little kid, I got a lot of that same treatment for different reasons. So when you feel compassion, You do things like insist that everybody gets treated the same, that you don't get discriminated against by who you choose to love, that you don't live in a state where you can't get health care because you can't afford it, that you insist that you have a funding system for schools where everybody has equal access to resources. Poor kids don't go to poor schools and rich kids don't go to rich schools. Most importantly, that you leave a better planet than the one you found. And that's what I want to close with. There's never been a more important time in our history to lead with compassion. Since I've been governor, I've managed 4 major storms, none of which I talked about during the campaign or expected that I'd have dealt to me. In Vermont, we had the single largest blizzard ever recorded in the history of Vermont, and we're a snow state, last March. In April and May, we had separate extraordinary flooding incidences where we got 10 or 12 inches of rain to lose Vermont, wiping out homes, wiping out businesses, taking people's belongings. In August, we got whacked by Tropical Storm Irene, the most devastating storm ever to hit Vermont in our history. We had 7 Vermonters who died in that storm. We lost lives, we lost property, we lost businesses, we lost roads, we lost bridges, we lost buildings that had been there for hundreds of years. My point is this: your mom and dad, and as well as my generation, didn't graduate from high school with a knowledge that the choices we make about energy will determine how livable the planet is for our children and our grandchildren. That just wasn't true in our lives. We know that you have an awesome responsibility, that if we don't get off our addiction to oil and move to other ways of powering the planet, your kids and their grandkids will live in an unlivable planet that has more incidents of extreme weather and tragedy like I've been living through as a governor. So in conclusion, I am here today because I'm incredibly proud of you. This is the beginning of a longer journey. Don't give up. You will never like school. You will never like school. I won't either. What you will like is exactly what Z just referred to in his speech. That Eagle Hill has given you Lex Z, right? All right. We reverse a few things once in a while. What Eagle Hill has given you is the willingness, the interest, the desire to learn. That is the greatest gift that you can be given by Eagle Hill, by your parents, by the faculty and staff and board that made this experience possible. So here's my plea to you. You got more work to do than I had to do. You do. We need your leadership. We need your skills. Folks always said to me, don't let your learning style define you. I say to you, please, let it define you. Lead, go better, fight harder.